Hi, class. I want to tell you a quick story what happened to me on Thursday with my technology in my office. I'm not in my office right now. I'm in the children's playroom. Anyway, my grandchildren. I could not get anything to stick in the voice thread, and I could not open up my DegreeWorks. And of course, for our class, we're all about VoiceThread. And I was like, I can't answer. I can't put a comment down. I can't watch all the videos. I was getting very frustrated. So I called the help desk at 3333. And within 15 minutes, it all got fixed. They were able to go into my course. You know how you can share your space and they can get in? And they get in, and then he said, oh, this is what it is. And it had something to do with cookies and something to do with blocking. And obviously it's something I did, but it's dangerous. I have used VoiceThread for over 10 years. First time I had a problem, same with DegreeWorks, but it was remedied. So I just want you to know, if you're having problems with your VoiceThread, please call, please call. The number for the help desk is in our syllabus. And it might be, sometimes you call, this happened to be a help desk issue, but sometimes it's a site lab issue, so there's another number for that, but they work together. So if you call one, they might say you have to call the other, and it really only takes a matter of seconds, so please do it. All right, hey, so I know today is February 6th. This is the final day for the self-introduction, so I'm excited. We're going to get to watch all of them. And what I usually do, I stop watching them during the week they're assigned, and you can tell that because I put little notes, JF is me, for Joyce Fernandez, and then I wait for more to come in. Then I had the issue with not getting in, so I'm behind. But my goal is to spend an hour and a half to 2 hours tomorrow morning and just watch all of them in a series, as if I was in the classroom, and I really like doing that. And then the repetition of meeting you through your introduction and through your presentations. By the second speech, I feel like I have a good feeling about who you are. And I know it's just a sample, but it's also a way for me to be able to relate more. You know, I need to know. Denise Damasio, who's the head of the honors program, wants to do a drop-in with us. What I generally do, I haven't had asynchronous classes like this. I mean, I haven't had an asynchronous class since the lockdown, but what I generally do is find some time that would be good for Denise and I send out a notice saying, hey, there's going to be an open Zoom if anyone wants to come in to ask me a question or Denise a question. We'll try to do that more than once during the semester. And if there is content driven, if all of a sudden Denise decides she's going to share some information about the honors program, I will record it. And if that happens, I'll always let you know. Sometimes students come into these sessions, sometimes they really can't, they're working. There is not required, but little by little through the course of the semester, it would be nice to meet you, even if it's Zoom. And eventually face-to-face, you know, if I get my way. I enjoy when students see me and say, hey, I am my public speaking teacher. I'm like, am I? And if I have a mask on, you'll know my voice. But back to our content. So this week we're doing the In the News, and there is a tutorial about that. I know that you watched the PowerPoint chapter 1 and read the content on chapter 1 and was talking about the communication model. And this is where it can get frustrating when you are doing videoing because you're not getting the feedback. If you read it, you see that you read it, of course you did. It's not linear. It's not like I speak, you listen, I speak, you listen. That's not communication. Communication goes in a circle. It always comes back, and it's a continuum, and it's a solid body of shared meaning. And yeah, I still have my tickle. But anyway, all right, I'll use myself as a demonstration. I am the source or the sender of a message. A message can be both verbal and nonverbal. We're always sending messages, right? Because of the nonverbal. And verbal content itself, the substance. I use the phrase connect to your content. the more connection you have as the source to the content, the better your delivery. Delivery will work its way out when you have genuineness. So as I am sending my words, my verbal, or my 7% of the message initially, what's taken over is the vocal, the emotions in my voice, the intention in my voice. Am I sincere? Am I sarcastic? Am I angry? Am I speaking with love, with kindness and goodwill? You in a nanosecond, you pick that up. And then the visual. Am I using my hands? Do I have good posture? Am I trying to make a connection by looking at you? Is my face claymation with no expression, or am I a little bit animated and natural? And the closer you are to your content, this will take care of itself. If you try to do it the other way, by manufacturing your body in an artificial way, the words are not going to come out right at all. And it takes time. It takes time to feel that connection with an audience. So in face-to-face, I'm the source. I'm encoding my message to the receiver, the listener, to you. You are taking it in with your ears, your eyes, and your hearts, right? The emotion too. And then immediately, at the same time, you're giving back feedback with head nods, or, like just gesturing and just a sense that you're in it with your nonverbal. And sometimes audiences will like, oh, they'll make noises or they applaud. That's all feedback. And then it comes back to the source. And the definition of communication has to do with the shared meaning. And for every person out there decoding even this message right now, the communication is going to be different, because the communication, the success or the effectiveness of the communication has more to do with the receiver or the listener than the source. What we're practicing in this class is encoding, which is great because it's very important. We're doing more and more verbal exchanges now on Zooms and other media sites, so it's important to have our words, our oral communication skills always be challenged and be fine-tuned, so it's great. But all you're doing right now is encoding. And then the mystery is, who's decoding, right? Who's decoding? That's why I try for every speech is to give you a little decoding, give you a little feedback. Even if it says, hey, I watched your speech, 2 thumbs up, or whatever I say, at least the circle will be closed. Because if you start with the source and you send your message to the receiver and the receiver sends the feedback, it's complete, it's satisfying. This is not satisfying for many of us, right? Having said that, I have encouraged you, I'm sure I have, from the self-introductions, to speak in the camera, and you have faith that someone is going to decode your message. But if you'd like to go back to the way I taught this class pre-pandemic, because I've been teaching online public speaking for at least 10 years, maybe 11 years, is collect an audience on your own. I've had many students who will do their presentations. That's for us. It's going to be, uploaded on VoiceThread for us to watch, but they're not doing it for us. They're doing it for their family, or maybe they're in their organizations. Many of my firefighters will get a collection, maybe 3 or 4 of their firefighter brothers and sisters together and say, this is my audience. And then they can experience that full circle. It's more satisfying, right? So what you would do was first assemble an audience of your choice, and then let the audience know for security purposes that this is going to be taped and it's going to be sent out, or like mass communication sent out, and the class is going to be watching it. So for security purposes, let them know that's going to happen. And then what you can do is take your camera and pan the audience, show us there's an audience there, right? And then just put the camera right on you, or have someone help you with that, and then do your presentation. And when you're doing it, hopefully you'll do what I do and what's recommended. You connect to your content, you connect to the moment, you clear your mind, and you say, this is the most important thing right now for me to encode my message to that audience, and you use your skills, your natural ability to make the connection. Do not worry about being perfect. Do not edit your presentations. Warts and all, it's valuable, it's precious, the way it comes out. Look at me, I stutter, I re-speak something, I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't do that right. And I self-edit as I go along. And if you, as the receiver or the listener, can't follow along, you can stop this video and move it forward if you want to. But hopefully you have goodwill as well. Most audiences do. Watching the Olympics right now, I was watching the snowboarders. I am fascinated by snowboarding. I am yelling and cheering. It was the women last night. This is Sunday right now. What's the date today? Oh, February 6th. Tomorrow's the 7th. Okay, so I'm watching them and I'm in my living room and I'm cheering them on. Well, your audience is going to do the same thing. So if you do have a live audience, let them know they're going to be taped and watch and look at them. Look at their feedback. Does someone look like they don't understand? Repeat yourself. Do you think you need to slow down? Then slow down. But get someone in that audience who's going to smile at you, who's going to support you, who's going to be like nodding. It's going to make you feel so good. And it adds that certain zazazoo to your speech. It gives you that fire that this recording doesn't do, because it's just good faith that someone is watching it on the other end. And I know that's frustrating. However, like I said, this is important skill building as well. It's not a waste. It's not a waste. What happened for me in my teaching is that once the pandemic set in, and I am now in more Zooms than ever before, I realized there is a value to what we're doing right now. There really is. So many of the Zoom meetings I go to, people shut off their cameras. They don't want to be seen, and they're certainly not going to speak. I did a workshop. I did 2 workshops last fall in public speaking on Zoom, and one of them was incredibly satisfying because people kept their cameras on. So I could get that circle feeling. I could get that completely satisfying, source encoding to a receiver decoding, and getting that shared meaning, getting that connection, which is the communication, right? And it felt great. Then I did another workshop, and only the host had 500 people. Only the host had the camera on, and all I saw was people's names and then these pictures, these still pictures. And I started losing energy. I said, I had in my brain saying, why am I doing this? And my daughter said, well, they pay you, don't they? I said, yes, but this is so not what I want to do. So it was hard. It is hard. So you can do your presentations just like you did your self-introduction, looking at the camera, having a connection with us, with faith that someone is going to be decoding and giving you back feedback at some point. And hopefully you're doing the little chat area where it has the ABC, send a note to your peers, or create your own atmosphere. And I find that many students who do create their own atmosphere, they say, wow, that was really cool. And if you have family at home, you have to do this safely. It's COVID. So, if you have to wear a mask doing it, it's fine with me. And if they're wearing masks, that's fine too. So you have to use your judgment, what's safe to do. But family at home sometimes can be a wonderful asset. They want to support you. They may never have heard you speak before. So it could be a tremendous, interpersonal building in your family. All right, what else do I want to say? I hope you've poked around on our course site. You found the syllabus, the calendar, which will tell you what's coming up. Always know there's another speech coming up. So in your notebook or notes, okay, after the In the News is the informative, and then I think it's the speech of history, and then the persuasive, and then the personal experience brief opinion, and then an interview where you are going to have another person, either on Zoom, both together, and you tape it, or you're going to be in real life, and if you need to wear your mask, please do. I teach four face-to-face classes this semester at Bristol Community College. We wear a mask for every one of them. Everybody has to wear a mask. N95s. We are just, protecting ourselves, protecting each other. And we've learned to speak through this mask. At first it was a little funny, and now I think we're all used to sounding like Darth Vader, but there's a few times I have to say, excuse me, I couldn't hear you. We have to speak up. And if you go into the handouts, you will see where there is, these are my handouts. There's a template template outline you might need to use. And there's also my speech evaluation form that I do automatically. When I listen to a presentation in this class, in my real life, I'm always evaluating the verbal. Was there an intro, body, conclusion? How well prepared was the person? And then what was the volume? Could I hear the person? What was the pacing, the diction? What was the energy level? And then the visual, from eye contact to body language to posture and any visual aids. You are the best visual aid. Someone asked me, could they use visual aids in their speech? You know, let's say you're doing a speech about a pencil. Having the pencil right there is a great visual aid. But if you're going to start building PowerPoints, there's a TED Talk video about the danger of PowerPoints called, I think it's called How to Avoid Death by PowerPoint. We've probably all suffered this. It can interfere. So for our purposes, I like pare it down. You know, like if you're an acoustic guitar player, get rid of the drums, get rid of all those other instruments. Just break it down to the basics. This will be fine. You do not need to use visual aids. But if you really want to, sure, well-placed visual aids. Remember, there's a time limit on all our presentations. That's for a reason. That's for discipline. That's for you to edit out your content to make sure you're getting exactly what you want to say and no more. You do not want to overwhelm your audience. So 2 to 5 minutes for in the news, and then it goes 4 to 6 minutes, then 4 to 6 minutes, then 4 to 6 minutes, and then 5 minutes, and then 2 to 5. You know, it's like there's always a limit. So we try, that's really the challenge, because coming up with in the news, you might have pages and pages and pages of content, and you say, wait a minute, I'm supposed to present this in 2 to 5 minutes. Let me edit out. I usually have 4 times as much content, and then I have to do the editing myself. So where are we with our handouts? So look on our course space. You see all the presentations have a little handout, and then there's a little explanation. So if you're using the PowerPoints, if you're reading the chapters, if you're listening to me right now, and then watching each other, that's the course content, your peers. You will feel like baptized? No, maybe that's not the right word. Immersed in public speaking. And then when you have your moment, you'll say, I am part of this team. I'm part of the team. So hopefully we meet if we do those Zoom drop-ins with Denise, not required. She might want to do them during the day, and I assume she works. But if we have any content, if there's any time Denise describes something or answers some questions, I will make sure I record it and tell you about it. And what else? Oh, this week we're doing Your Body Language May Shape Who You Are by Amy Cuddy. Every single one of these discussion boards has a purpose. But this particular one, I love this one because it really does. We talk about body language for other people, right? Opening our heart, showing that we're genuine, but it really is for you. It really is. You know, I've been doing power poses forever, not knowing what I was doing. I've stood in class like Wonder Woman with my hands on my hips, nice and tall, but I'm always trying to make myself feel open and tall, and doing like the before you do your speech, spread out, just feel that energy and that you're in control and you're gonna get this. You know, it's very important to have as much positivity running through your veins as possible when you do your presentation. It's self-talk, right? We talk about the 4 layers of oral communication. The first one is intrapersonal conversations, and you are the audience, the self, right? What we say to ourselves. And then interpersonal, dyads, 2 people, turn-taking, and then like small families, or families, I should say, that know each other well, that you bounce up a lot of ideas, and so much of the message is nonverbal. You can just tell in your family, like if someone who you love is having a bad day, or if they're happy, it's written all over their face, right, in their bodies. And then public speaking, which is impersonal, but a defined audience. And you know, I'm like when I did my workshop not long ago for public speaking, I had 500 people on that Zoom, 500 people, although I couldn't see all of them. It was frustrating. And then I had another one, I think I had 116 that I could see all of them. So it was public speaking, defined audience. Mass communication, which is the 4th strata of oral communication, is like television, broadcasting. In some ways, this is mass communication because we hope we have our defined audience, but we don't always know who's watching us. But you don't. So you're just sending it out one way, and it takes a long time to get the feedback. You know, the Super Bowl is coming next weekend. I don't know if it's $1 billion for an ad. I don't know. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but it's a lot of money. So the public relations people are really working hard to make those 30 seconds, that minute ad, capture their audience's attention. So they're encoding. That's what they're doing, right? Delivering their message. Decoding is the consumer, and they'll get that feedback when they have sales. I'm going to look at my notes. I have my notes here. I always have notes to make sure. I put down quiet your mind. What else did I say? Connect to your content. Keep it simple. You are the first visual. So true. Make sure you're reading. Make sure you're watching those PowerPoints. The content is going to connect you back to your written communication tenets, your best practices, and it really does apply. So you can make that literal, like, transfer ability. You know, when you're you just say, this reminds me so much of being a writer and being a reader. You got it. All right. So substance does matter, but your audience is going to be first affected by what they hear and what they see, and then by the content. But content matters for you. So that gives you the chops, I would say, to deliver well. Remember, Aristotle said that ethos means credibility is so important. If you have sources with, like, you probably will for your informative speech, persuasive speech, definitely for your speech or history, cite them within the context of your presentation. In the news, the first thing you should be saying in your introduction is your source. Builds credibility. It's very hard to listen to someone who you don't think they know what they're talking about. And you know, we go back to the Greeks. Greeks. Aristotle said, ethos is credibility, pathos is emotion, logos is the logic. And every presentation you have are going to have all three tenets of rhetoric, they call that, which supports what you're saying. So stand up if you'd like to. Even when you're doing just like this, if you want to stand up and do your presentation, please feel free. Because, like I said, times have changed so much. I sit down when I do presentations. For my workshop, I was sitting down. The audience is sitting down. You have to read the room, like what's happening, right? Please do not edit your videos. Do not. Recovery counts. Like, if you mess up, that happens all the time in real time. Recovery counts, and grace and poise. And just keep smiling and recognize the goodwill of your audience. Keep your energy throughout. You can do a manuscript if you want when you write out your notes word for word, but when you deliver them, please do not read your speech verbatim. You will lose your audience. You will. Although you might need to from time to time if you're quoting. I always write out my introduction word for word in case I get nervous. I have to walk up to the podium. If the lights are glaring and I get like this hesitation, the words are there on my notes. I do not use index cards, but you may, of course. I find them clunky. I use pieces of paper, and usually no more than 2. And then I highlight key ideas. And then there is memorization. And some teachers don't mind memorization. They say, well, write it out and memorize the whole thing. In my experience, I found that some students fall into monotone when they do that, and they lose their own interest level. It all depends. I don't know. You're creative people. This is an art form. So, yeah, you want to memorize it and then deliver it like an actress or an actor would? Please do. And then impromptu means with no preparation. You're just going to wing it. Like the conversations you have are impromptu. You didn't plan on them. Depending on your verbal skills, your personality, if you're a real extrovert and you do this all the time, you may get away with it and you may be just fine. But it's not a best practice. The best practice is to speak from a prepared outline or notes, and they call that speaking extemporaneously. So it's a combination of all three. Some may be memorized, some will be written out as a manuscript, some may be pieces of your speech might be impromptu, and the rest are going to be outlined in a like, you know, like this. This is how I do it. I always speak extemporaneously. And what I just did now is I reviewed my notes. And there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you didn't like it, but that's common, that speakers in the real world, in real time, are going to be using their notes. Would you have any questions? Look out. All right, week 3 and 4 up. The reason I put week 4 up, because that's where the journal is. And the journal is when you teach. You evaluate your peer. But nobody sees that except for me. Your peer doesn't see it. I've found through the years that it's freshman level. It's very hard for a peer who's doing the same thing in the same way to evaluate someone else. It can sometimes cause more harm. But I love to see how you do your evaluation. And if you don't like those 4 prompts that I put down there, the first one was to ask if the speaker connected to their audience, through like non-verbally, with energy, did they seem interested in their topic? Were they trying? Did their posture exude confidence? Was there something about the presentation that you really enjoyed? Maybe you enjoyed the topic or the personality of the speaker or something about it. And if you were to do the speech, the 4th one really is, if you were to do this speech, how would you change it? I use the word improvement, but that's not a good word because it doesn't mean there was anything to improve, but how would you change it? So that's a way of doing a critique. Now, at the same time, it's your opinion. So as long as you give me some feedback, if you don't like those prompts, you can just say what you would say as far as critique. But you're going to do 3 each category of presentation. So it'll be a total of 12 at the end. We don't do them for let's see, the interview. We don't do one. I think we just have 4, but we have 6 speeches. So we're only doing it for 4. And if you were to take this same course with my buddy Jason Edwards at Bridgewater, who I really like, Dr. Edwards, he has all his public speaking students do 4 presentations. He has them do a self-introduction. He has them do an informative and 2 persuasions. Mine is a little different, and he has them doing every single week. He gives them a speech, not their peers, but a speech that he found on YouTube or he has in a collection, and they do 1 peer evaluation per week. He really believes that part of decoding a speech is very important. It is how you learn. It's self-reflective. The more you evaluate someone else, the more you evaluate yourself, and it flows pretty naturally. So that's what he does. Now, if you were to take this public speaking class at a 4-year school and it was a level 300 or 400, you might find yourself doing more speeches from history, doing more interviewing, and you would do more of that. So we're doing a comprehensive view of what's normally in a public speaking class. It's time to go. I hope things are well for you. Pay attention to all your classes. The big problem with online education is students falling off the rails, and either because they just have too much on their plate, or they procrastinate, and then not connecting to their class on a weekly basis, and then they're behind 2-3 weeks, and then they get confused and they get lost. And that's the pathway. That's what Professor Jason Edwards says, Dr. Edwards says, that's the recipe for disaster, and I agree with him. And that's the way you're going to get a WF, and you don't want that. This course was designed to be very repetitious. The time will be more in creating your content and then practicing all on your own. I never see that. That's the real work of this class. And then watching everyone's presentations. If you honestly watch the majority of your, let's say you watch 80%, if not 100% of your peers, you will feel very satisfied with this class. It was designed for that. It was designed for not baptism, immersion. All right, bye everyone. I look forward to seeing you. And if I am going to do a Zoom drop-in with Denise, I will make sure I send you an email.